Here we are, last day of OTTC 2013, another one of our illustrious guests. Introduce yourself, tell us what you do, who you are.
I'm Bill Filion, I'm our software development vice president, so all of our developers at Hyland Software report up to me.
So you're in charge of all the code that gets written.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
And I've been with Hyland Software for 16 years now, and it's been great seeing our company grow, seeing our product grow, and all the functionality we've got. With OnBase 13, one of the biggest things we did for, predominantly more for new customers, is be able to allow somebody to store more than 2 billion documents. As we've been growing and expanding, as we've moved into the leader quadrant, we're starting to be brought into RFP responses for customers who are very, very large, where 10 billion documents or 20 billion documents is very realistic for them. And that has not necessarily been the customer base that we've acquired over all these years, and so it's great for us to be able to continue to grow our company customer base into these larger companies. And that's very good information actually for all of our existing customers, because it helps to guarantee that Hyland's going to be very solid, very strong moving forward, because we'll be able to grow, whether it's from a revenues perspective or the functionality, into an even larger space than we were before.
Excellent.
But I think some of the greatest things that have been coming. Mobile is one of the biggest areas that we've been expanding, being able to allow employees who need to do work away from their desk. I've got solutions for them inside of OnBase that they can create content, they can fill out forms while they're out in the field, even while they're disconnected, and then when they get connected again, they can upload what they've just done. It allows somebody who is away from their desk to participate in workflows all day long, so that that kind of activity doesn't have to wait until they get back to the desk and transcribe information from paper forms into the system. So
yeah, I saw a great display or a great presentation on a county that is using a lot of mobile for their first responders and for their inspectors, and I mean, wow, that's just great stuff. It's delivering documents out to the people that need them when they need them.
Correct, and the key point from a return on investment perspective, if you can get the next act in that business process done sooner, you've just eliminated time that was wasted from the process being able to move along. So,
and as they say, time is money, right?
Absolutely. So it's just a great way to enable maybe a small workforce to be that much more effective without having to grow people and getting things done.
Excellent.
All sorts of great features with our Unity forms. So forms are an essential, central part of how somebody does an automated business process. So utilizing our workflow, well, now with Unity forms, it's really easy for a department to stand up that kind of a solution. You don't need an HTML programmer, so you're not dependent upon IT or going out and getting a consultant in to build this. You can own the solution. Unity forms are point and click configurable. Anybody can do it. We tried to make the tool as simple, straightforward, and intuitive as possible. And I've actually heard this at this conference, multiple people saying, yeah, I can do this now. And with no programming background. So
and the workflow studio
is so much easier.
Is wonderful to use.
Correct. And I think the greatest value there is that if there's complications in your workflow logic, if something is not yet fully defined, Workflow Studio, it tells you. It highlights, by the way, you need to finish this particular rule. You got started, but you didn't get it done. Whereas previously...
That's kind of like the old Workflow Doctor, isn't it? But it's active. It's always active.
You had to run it, now it's always active. So this idea of a heads up, information on, by the way, finish this, as well as things like this particular queue is load balanced. Before, you had to remember that. So as a workflow engineer, you kind of had to know everything about your site, when you're doing, maintenance work, adding to it and growing it. Well, now we give you all sorts of visual cues to remind you, by the way, this one is tied in here, or this particular rule or ad hoc bit of task list logic is utilized here, here, and here. Now you know. Previously, you had to remember that. So,
The other thing I like about it is the graphical the graphical interface that allows you to show business leaders and other people around the organization that may not be technical in a very, very easy to understand way what this process looks like.
Bring them to your desk, they can stare over your shoulder, but you can show them here's the logic flow. You can print out documentation that ultimately can be part of your end user documentation.
That's also another wonderful
very
feature.
Easy to get that out of
we could sit here and talk about workflow for the whole rest of the day.
We've got so many customers on our WorkView platform, Case Manager. In this past, well really in the past 8 months of this year, we've seen over $1 million of additional WorkView licensing sold. And it's really a testament to how much we exposed our OTTC audience last year to the value of what case management can be implemented on top of OnBase, that people really are getting the message. And we've had the product. It is now 8 years mature. We've had it for a long time, but articulating the value now is dovetailing with what analysts are saying, that developing case management solutions is where, you know, process automation or discrete data capture is where you ought to be going.
Is the checklist the checklist for process control? It's my understanding there's really not a code base behind that in and of itself. It's WorkView.
Correct. It's straight WorkView. So it's all native functionality of WorkView. So it's a pre-configured solution that we can import into a customer site. It is ready to go day one once imported, but because it's all WorkView, it can be tweaked. If you want to add to it or grow that solution, it's totally available to you.
Yeah, that's really neat. When I sat through that session, it was really exciting. Brain starts working and you're like, oh, I know this client could use this here and this client could use this there.
Absolutely, because I think you know, there really are many situations where my employee has to follow a certain task list, but that task list is somewhat manual in terms of activities. Maybe I'm doing something in this line of business system, but then I have to follow it up with an email, or I have to follow up with a phone call or some other communication to another group. And being able to follow this checklist and then keeping track of what I've done allows you know, the departmental head to follow where my employee's at. Is anybody getting stuck on a particular step? Because I can see that they have checked off, yes, I did this one, I did this one. So being able to know where all of your activity is at, where your employees are working on, being able to monitor productivity, all of this is possible with this checklisting solution that previously would have been done on paper or in Excel and wouldn't be as auditable or easy to really follow through on where's everybody at. With companies that innovate, we're all, you know, as human beings, we're all attracted to the shiny new thing. We just are, right? So we think about companies like Sony. You know, they are synonymous with innovation. But when you look at a company like Sony today, you know, 2013, do you think anybody at Sony really cares that they ever were so positioned around the Walkman? You know, it was a tape cassette player I could take with me wherever. Today, nobody cares because it's not even part of their product portfolio. It's part of their past. As an innovator, Sony was the type of company where they could take their entire inventory and replace it 10, 15 years later and never care that it was ever part of their inventory other than just being part of their museum. Hyland software is not that way. When we build a module that has value, take Cold, you know, one of our earliest ones, when we build it, the value exists forever. As soon as we create it, that particular product is always accessible and available for our customers to take advantage of it. And so with each release, I typically have added about 15 new modules every single release. Right now, we are somewhere around 275 modules make up the OnBase product suite. Just because something is old and does not have the shiny newness does not mean it doesn't have the same value. So Cold has always been incredibly valuable, being able to take any kind of data stream and bring it in. Most obvious would be a printed report style of data stream, but you could take you know, a SQL dump from a database of record structure. That can be cold processed into OnBase. It could be applied to data that would go into, say, an E-form, that this is where the data is coming from. And now I've got a new visualization of this data coming out of a ERP or some other kind of line of business system, that system perhaps does not have a good workflow ability to work with this data. Extract it, use Cold to pump it into OnBase, and you're up and operational with the ability to automate a business process around data that's housed in another system. it has always been a phenomenal solution for OnBase. A little understood, I think, by our customer base on the unbelievable value, because maybe they think, well, cold is for text reports, but it goes so much further than that.
Talk about other systems, and that's always been one of the strengths of OnBase is integration. I mean, you've got from your point and click integration of AppEnabler through to your programmed APIs and interfaces.
Absolutely.
And then all your pre-configured integrations.
Absolutely.
And OnBase really shines, and you see the benefits of the product when you are working directly in your line of business, and you can seamlessly access documents.
Absolutely.
I mean, how many users are out there that don't even know they're using OnBase?
Correct, and ultimately we're very humble from that perspective. We're happy that the solution is powered by OnBase, but if you don't know, that doesn't bother us. When it comes to integration, I've heard it described this way, that OnBase is kind of the grout between a mosaic of tiles of lines of business systems, that we don't see ourselves as the center of the universe for many of our customers. Their line of business system is the center of the universe. That's what the end users interact with on a day-to-day basis. But
I love that. I'm going to have to use that.
Not a problem. But transactions that you do in that line of business system, at some point, they all reach a boundary that they cannot transcend. Mm-hmm. And OnBase, with our API integrations and other ways that we can, listen to those transactions or pull the data out, we become then, as I say, this grout between this line of business system and another, or this line of business system and a manual process through email or whatnot. We can pull that data out, we can automate then the next step in that transaction, we can automate the ability to massage the data, to move that transaction to where it's got to go, and ultimately if it needs to come back to this system with data improved, validated, verified, or other steps taken that are auditable, we do all that, get it back, and then that transaction can continue inside the line of business system where this data is the system of record. That is a huge aspect of why OnBase is so valuable to our customers, that we allow you to go further than what that line of business system is capable of doing, and allows you to maximize your investment in this line of business system that does not need to be replaced. We've just allowed it to live a lot of years longer, noting that vendor may never be able to add the functionality that we're able to do with workflow, WorkView from a case management perspective, and everything else that we've got.
So we talked a little bit about the present, what's really cool right now.
Yep.
Touched on the past. So what's in the future? Where's that? Where should I look down the road?
Well, today, kind of look at where we are today gives you a pretty good idea of where we're going in the future. Mobile is huge, we think, for our customer base. And maybe it's not, important to everybody, but there's so many different businesses that need to have somebody being able to be effective and working when away from their desk. So we're doing a lot of work to try and unify many functionalities we've made available to mobile, like what I've got in my Unity briefcase that gives you all sorts of offline capabilities to create content and work. I want to bring all of that functionality to the iPad, to the iPhone, so that I can be just as effective in those types of mobile devices as I can with a Windows laptop. Other areas, we continue to extend our integration capabilities. We've got underlying technologies that can tap directly into your enterprise service bus and allow OnBase to create external web services that can be called from other systems. So there's all sorts of ways that we continue to improve the solution there. I'm constantly looking at ways to present, as we were saying earlier, with regard to being humble about, I don't care where somebody's data is. We're looking at ways to be able to present that data as widgets, gadgets that you could plug into your own solution. Maybe it's a portal, maybe it's a custom homegrown solution that could show a viewer of a document or show a workflow queue and be able to work from it. So these are areas that we'll be expanding in the suite as well. From an international perspective, as we've moved into this leader quadrant, and even before, we've had customers who are multinational.
Yes.
And if I'm a multinational and I've got employees who work in a factory in China and also work in a factory in Brazil, I need to store keyword data that is in English for my US facility, but in Chinese for those employees there, and in Portuguese down in Brazil. And you can't put all that in a single Western-based database. So we are actively working on making OnBase to be capable of running on a Unicode database so that all of those languages could be stored stored as keyword values, as document names.
Oh, that's really cool.
Exactly, so that local documents for individuals in that particular part of the world have then the exact language that they operate in. So very exciting growth for us. Once again, it's part of how we can play as a much larger organization to many more customers worldwide.
And I'll tell you one of the things I appreciate that's come out of there recently, and well, we just did a project with a client. It's a client that we've had for, I don't know how long, for a very, very long time. Okay. Great client, really actively embraces and uses OnBase. And we started looking at Unity scripts. Okay. Because we had VB scripts all through it. Sure. And as we started going through the process of looking at what we needed to do to rewrite all these scripts, it became very obvious that the 70 some odd different functions and different scripts that had been written were condensed down to 4 or 5 Unity scripts. They basically all went away because the actions that we were accomplishing in those scripts are now part of the product.
Absolutely.
So, you know, that's a really cool thing you guys are doing there. You're continuing to work in the same, you know, in that.
Absolutely. And right, from an API perspective, I mean, through our history, our APIs have evolved as Microsoft has evolved. You know, they were COM-based, and Microsoft got to .NET, and Unity is all built on a .NET background. We are transitioning our customers, as you mentioned, from these older technologies that, you know, they weren't the best API that we were able to produce. The Unity API, it's easy to program against, it's self-describing, I mean, it's just so much simpler than the previous ones, and there's quite a bit of assistance that we're trying to provide our customers to be able to locate, hey, do I have some of these older APIs that we are sunsetting so that we can get everything on one API base, the whole Unity API.
At Results Engineering, we work with organizations on every enterprise content management project imaginable. Whether you're researching options for your first ECM solution, looking to change enterprise content management platforms, or need to resolve a business or technical problem, we can help. Click on the contact link below to get in touch, or visit us online at www.reeng.com. The Results Advantage. Your advantage.